My friends, I thought this was an interesting article and I wanted to share it. This came out 2 days ago and it said SoftBank is more than $600 million underwater on its Uber investment as stock hits an all-time low. So I believe on Tuesday it hit like really rock bottom. And again, I'm not surprised, right? With all the negative Uber press, with all the strikes, with all the protests from drivers, from all the accidents in the news, ranging from murders to, this little child being abducted and killed, to assault. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on. And the bottom line is what this guy here, let's just see what this gentleman looks like, right? He was sort of hailed as the guru, right? As the guru for, picking this Uber stock, but I don't think he's smiling anymore. And I have some advice to this Japanese gentleman, and I say that with a lot of respect because I truly love the Japanese culture. I enjoy the country. I enjoy the people. And, they have a lot of pride. They're very loyal to their companies. Usually they will stay there for 10, 15, 20 years with their companies. So I understand a lot about the Japanese culture. I've done business with them. But I have a few words of advice for the SoftBank Group founders, chairman and CEO Masayoshi Son. When you don't address the core issue, my friend, right? And I'm speaking to this investor here. Nothing will change. Even if you go out, and I heard they spent up to $500 million, Uber did, on PR campaigns, etc., to try and clean up the image that they have out there, right? The public, the drivers, riders, passengers are not going to perceive the company any differently until core things are done, right? And these are. And this is where I want this Japanese CEO of SoftBank to pay close attention, right? You have to address safety and security of the people. Now, you may be a Japanese firm over there, right? But boots on the ground here in the United States, whether you're driving to Detroit, Chicago, LA, Miami, right? The system is set up for a lot of future failures, for a lot of future deaths, for a lot of future assaults, etc. Unless you guys tell the management, the executives, that change has to take place in certain areas. And the number one thing right now where you should be pouring money into, if you want to come out and create a better image out there, you don't have to spend $500 million. Start spending $100 million on safety and security and tighten up the entire system. And that begins with background checks for all. And when I say for all, we are already getting background checks, the drivers. Every single passenger entering a rideshare vehicle, Uber, Lyft, no matter what it is, should have undergone a background check. So, Mr. Masayoshi Son, reach out to your companies, insist. It's the best advice I'm ever going to give you, right? Insist that the companies conduct background checks for drivers and passengers. This eliminates those problems, those problem people, which will then also eliminate the problems that you face in the media. No company wants to be accused of being involved, right, or facilitating because of their platform a death or a rape or an assault, right? So I think that is where you start right there, Mr. CEO Masayoshi Son. And again, I say that extremely respectfully to you, sir, okay? You have the power to turn to your company and say, hey, you guys are spending $200,000 on balloons there. You're spending $500 million on PR campaigns to try and clean up your image that are not working. Start with safety and security and start running background checks, right? The second biggest advice I can give this Japanese CEO, right, is fire several of the executives in the Uber company, starting with the CEO. The CEO has an ostrich head in the sand approach, right? Buries his head, does not come out there after a tragedy and say, you know, my heart goes out to the families, I will make this better. No, he just remains silent, right? So, sir, respectfully, this is not the type of person to lead Uber. And I can tell you, you can ask any Uber or Lyft driver out there, they know him, they do not like him, right? So just that one key name, and I want him gone. I really do. It's not like I don't hate the person. I don't see him as an evil person. I just see him as the most incompetent CEO that I've seen for a long, long time, right? And you guys, you shareholders, you investors are paying him $42 million. I can tell you that's $34 million too much. He does not deserve more than $8 million. In fact, he doesn't even deserve $4 million based on his history of poor decisions. So you got to, as a SoftBank, and it's a father-son operation there, they got to clean up, right? They got to take action. You got to put pressure on that executive board so change, real change in the United States and globally can happen. And that starts with background checks for all drivers and riders. That starts with beefing up your security, putting a lot of money into safety and security. That starts with putting a task team of drivers that are on the board or report to the board and actually start building real bridges to drivers, actually start treating drivers well, actually start, and I hope you're taking notes here, Mr. Masayoshi Son. I hope you have your pen and paper out and you're taking some notes. Again, I say that respectfully, right? You have to start building bridges to drivers. They will protest, they will strike. Your company does not need that bad media attention. That drives the stock down. The public perceives this as a no-go, right? So if you want to change, you start with 3 simple things that I've just listed right there, right? And I think you will see results, and I think that you'll see far better results instead of paying $500 million to a PR company that has brought you nothing. In fact, they've just made it worse. You are not addressing the core issues, right? So I'm always the one that puts pressure on the executive board saying, hey, both need to go, right? We need fresh, competent, good leaders out there. I will now also do a series and call out these individuals like this Mr. Masayoshi Son that the shareholders, investors need to start cleaning up, right? And taking on a different direction. You want to see your stock going back up again? Well, guess what? You got to address your core failures, right? They have way too much pride. They've got way too much ego. They're driven by way too much greed that they will never ever see and admit, hey, we effed up here, we effed up here, and we effed up here. We need to fix here, we need to fix here, and we need to fix here. You, my friend, have the power to do that, right? You and your son, as well as other shareholders, you can change the drivers' lives for better. You can change the riders' lives forever. I can tell you right now, again, Mr. Masayoshi Son, many riders and passengers will not get into these cars right now because they feel unsafe. And you and your fellow investors and your executive board are failing us, the drivers and the passengers, on the biggest issue, safety and security. We should never ever have to hear another name in the media, right? Another driver, another passenger, another child should never have to lose their life over poor decisions that these guys made on top. So get your act together and make changes, push for change. Now, I want to read this article. Uber's plunging stock has left its biggest stakeholder in the red, SoftBank, which poured about $7.6 billion into Uber in early 2018 after the ride-hailing company suffered a series of bruising gaffes, has seen the value of its stake dwindle by the day. Uber shares fell almost 6% on Tuesday, dropping for the 8th time in 9 trading sessions as they headed for a record low close. And part of my motivation right now, my strategy, remember I'm in a chess game with Uber, not necessarily Lyft, but with Uber, is because, you know, when you want to hurt my fellow drivers with their pay, when you want to hurt me as one of your top recruiters by just not paying out, guess what? I told you I'm coming after you. So I will put the pressure on you guys relentlessly. You will keep on seeing your stock drop and drop and drop. I will go out and inform every single citizen and public member out there about this company and tell them that they do not have the drivers and the passengers back. And that starts with their massive, massive failure on the top, as well as the investors not taking care of your security, of my security, of your safety, of my safety, ladies and gentlemen, right? So until then, until they've made those changes and shown, hey, they're gonna plug those holes, start paying a decent wages, earnings, etc. You know, only then should we come back on board and really start pushing this company again. But when you are showing us no signals, no apologies, zero respect, when you're not showing us any dignity, you think you're going to have our support? You won't. And that includes the investors, right? So it dropped the 8th time in 9 trading sessions as they headed for a record low close. Since then, I know today it's recovered a little bit, not much. It's still way down there. The stock has lost close to 1/3 of its value since May IPO, right? And obviously, this gentleman from SoftBank knows that. I have given you the 3 biggest tips you will ever receive, my friend. And guess what? You've paid $0 for it. You didn't pay me $42 million for those tips, right? And those tips come right from the drivers and right from people on the street that understand the rideshare street language, Mr. Masayoshi Son. Okay? So, sorry, I want to say it correctly, Mr. Masayoshi Son. Now, Uber is at the centerpiece of SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son's plan to build up a portfolio of next generation transportation companies that, in his view, are all moving towards a future of artificial intelligence and autonomy. Now, again, I have news for you, Mr. Masayoshi Son. We understand that's your game plan. We understand that you want to replace humans with robots and autonomous vehicles, but imagine if you can't even get there, if you can't even get to that goal, right? Because you're just mismanaging it on the way, right? So we carry on at under $30.70 where Uber closed on Tuesday. The stock is below the lowest point at which SoftBank invested. The Japanese conglomerate spent about $6.6 billion to buy just over 200 million shares from existing investors, right? Including former CEO Travis Kalanick at around $32.87 apiece. It provided another $1 billion in fresh capital to Uber, buying 21.45 million shares at about $48.77 each. Okay, and just look at the graph there for 1 second. Difficult. Doesn't look healthy. That's all I can say. Right. In total, SoftBank invested $7.65 billion. That stake, when factoring in the $245.3 million in shares SoftBank sold in the IPO is currently worth less than 7 billion, right? And hence, they say down in the negative 600 million. That's a lot of dough, right? And again, I understand where that 600 million went. I understand why so many people lost faith in this company. So please, if you want to restore faith, we have a 3-point formula for you. Follow it, implement it, and succeed, right? SoftBank bundled its losses from Uber along with other investments in its latest financial report for the 3 months ended June 30th. The company recorded unrealized losses of 195.3 million yen, about 1.84 billion, for the decrease in the fair values of investments in Uber and others. Now you can imagine, obviously he's taking a big hit on Uber, but can you imagine what this Japanese gentleman's company, SoftBank, what happened to the shares after they came out and said, you know what, it took 195 million hit. Those stocks, I'm sure, also went down, right? The $100 billion Vision Fund held 81 investments at the time of that report, with costs totaling 66.3 billion and a current fair value of 82.2 billion, SoftBank said. It highlighted Slack, DoorDash, and India's Oyo as 3 investments that have increased in value. SoftBank also has a massive stake in office sharing company WeWork. I don't really think highly at all of WeWork. I think that's another dud, which is set to go public soon and may face a similar challenge with public investors because of its high cash burn. There you got it. Now, no seat at the table. The precipitous decline in Uber's stock price is just the latest complication for SoftBank in relation to the ride-hailing company. As part of its investment, SoftBank was granted 2 board seats at Uber, which were slated to go to Marcio Klo, the company's operating chief and executive chairman of Sprint, and Rajiv Misra, the head of the Vision Fund. But because of an assessment by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS, a unit of the Treasury Department that reviews certain transactions involving overseas investors, SoftBank didn't get the board positions ahead of the IPO, at which time its rights to the seats expired, according to the people familiar with the matter who asked not to be named because the information is confidential, right? Without positions on the Uber board, which currently has 9 members, SoftBank has limited ability to wield its power and influence. Okay, so I did not know that part, right? So although they do have power, they have limited power, right? But it doesn't sound like they have as much power that they can wield here. SoftBank is also an investor in Uber's separate self-driving vehicle unit known as the Advanced Technologies Group, ATG, which raised 1 billion in April from the Vision Fund, as well as Toyota and Japanese auto parts supplier Denso, according to Uber's IPO prospectus. CFI US could block the agreement, leading to mitigation matters that materially and adversely affect the strategic benefits of the ATGB collaboration. So thanks to that great article by, by Ari Levy, great article. It also said SoftBank backed Uber in early 2018, buying shares from existing investors for $48.77 apiece and purchasing new shares just under $33. On Tuesday, Uber fell to a record low, closing at $30.70 a share and leaving SoftBank deeper in the red. Because of the review by the US Treasury Department, SoftBank still doesn't have its Uber board seats and may never get them. So I may have thought that they had more yielding power over the company. They do have a lot of power, but it looks like by them not getting access to these 2 seats, I'm sure this gentleman would like to yield more power, but still, he should reach out to them and tell them to do the right thing, right? So I hope you enjoyed that article. I'm going to leave the link below. You have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you.